Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I'm Wyatt. This week I'm joined by Alex. We are reviewing Fear Street Part 2, 1978. You watched the first part, right, Alex?
I did, yes.
Okay, well,
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what was your original opinion on the first part going into the second one?
Just a quick wrap up. I know I watched your thing, but I just felt like it was like a campfire story. I know a lot of people were like comparing it to Scream. I
Yeah,
didn't
it was a
really.
lot like Scream, I thought.
I thought a little bit, but I don't know. It was more like I know it is an adult Goosebumps, but it was just like a campfire story to me. That
Yeah,
like got out of hand. Like not that story, but it was like the stories you tell your kids coming to life. And I don't know. I liked it. I didn't think it was terrifying or anything, but I was like, it's a pretty good movie.
I thought it was okay. For everybody that hasn't watched it, go back and watch the previous review that I did for the first part, because this one all about part two, the 1978. It kind of picks up right where the last one left off about them showing up to like the person that kind of was
C.
affected,
Berman.
yeah, affected by the witch prior, all those years back. So that's they're kind of she's telling her story about what happened. That's what happens in 1978 at Camp Nightwing or whatever it's called.
Which I
um
liked a lot
yeah,
because I was afraid that going back they weren't going to continue the story that they left a cliffhanger on, and I
yeah,
really liked that they still incorporated it,
yeah.
like it was still going.
And to be right up front, man, I think I like this one better than the first part.
I'm with you. I think I did too.
I think I like this one better than the first one. It didn't really have as many like Friday 13th references as I thought that there was going to be, especially with like a summer camp. There were a
Yeah,
couple. I know that
couple.
like throughout the whole movie, there was like kind of when it was lingering on like outside location shots, it would have kind of like the same like score as Friday the
Yeah.
13th at certain points. So I was like, oh, I kind of picked up what they did there. But overall, man, I thought it was an improvement on the first one. I have no idea what to think about like the third one. It's going all the way back to like 1666.
They're
So
taking her back to
yeah, taking her
1666.
back to
Yeah.
1666. We'll get to that review next week. But yeah, they kind of dive into the story about what happened at the camp way back when. It's kind of goes into the origin of like the Nightwing murderer, the axe killer
Yeah,
from
the
that
one with
was
the
in the
bag on his head.
yeah, it looks like the Friday 13th,
Jason.
the part two Jason. Yeah, with the bag over his head and everything. He just doesn't have like the eye hole in it. Um, but it kind of explains that there was a lot more kills, a lot more
A lot more.
gore in this one. We're kind of not going to get into the spoilers as of right now since it's a newer movie. Maybe we'll touch on it kind of towards the end of this review. Yeah, it just kind of explains the story about how each victim's kind of chosen to who's going to be like the murderer next in a way.
I,
Um, Go ahead, man.
I'm with you. I think it was a vast improvement, and not only do I think the storytelling and the kills are better and all of that. Marissa, who doesn't super love horror movies, is actually scared of this movie. Like
Really?
we were watching it. Now she just doesn't do well with horror.
Yeah.
And she was like, my anxiety is killing me. She's like, you can watch this alone, or you can try again with me tomorrow. And I was like,
Really?
that's why I had to split it up in two. I was like,
Interesting.
I was like, all right, I'll turn it off. So she was just like, it got her right, and she's claustrophobia a little bit. Like when they were, and again, I don't want to go too much into spoilers alert, but when they were down in that cave area and
Oh
like they were
yeah.
going through all that, she was like, fuck that. Like she was not happy. Even when they were down in the cellar and like right before the cave,
Yeah.
she was not having it. But it's good that it scares her. I like watching scary movies with her because she gets scared. I'm
Yeah.
just like looking over, I'm like, you sucker.
But yeah, it was pretty good. It follows the story of Ziggy and her sister Cindy. Cindy's obviously like the older one. She's like a camp counselor there. Ziggy, she's like a younger. She's kind of like the troublemaker, it seems, at the camp.
Hmm.
And it kind of follows their story from their two different perspectives. It feels a lot like an older, like, even though it's set in 78, it reminds you of like an 80s type movie with like the bullies and everybody at the camp and
It felt
everything.
very 80s. I know it's 78, but I was like, this is 80s. This is
Yeah, straight
80s the whole
80s.
way through.
That's what I was thinking the whole time too. And it's still it kind of shows you that rivalry was still a big thing between those two towns
Back then,
even
even, yeah.
back in 78.
Which was kind of weird because I'm like, all right, so it's like a towns that don't like each other, but let's send all of our kids to the same summer camp and
Right?
like put them all together.
Not only like in the first part you had them like at the like they had a football game, and then there was like even the town that hates them had like the memorial for like the kid that died in the first one. I was like, why
Yeah.
would you bring these kids together if they hate each other so much?
Exactly. Well, my thought process is, and then not only like, hey, we kind of know they hate each other, then let's have one night where we just split them into towns and say
Oh
go
my
against each
gosh.
other.
Yeah, we're like, all right.
Let's
We're like, I feel like the thought process is like, we'll make them go to camp together because maybe they'll like grow to realize
like
that, yeah, like we're all alike, you know. And then they pit them against each other
and say fuck that.
in the challenge, and they're so mean. It seems like everybody is such an asshole in this movie. And like even some of the main characters, you're like, man, everybody's an asshole in this movie.
Asshole, man.
Especially like the bullies that are going after like the main girl Ziggy. Like, as soon as the movie starts, they're like, man, like, yeah.
I liked that though because I felt like, I mean, like you said, they were mean. They weren't just like 80s movie mean. They were like punching her and like burning her, like
they're
doing,
trying to light her on fire. They tie her up
like
to that
doing
tree.
Shit to this woman. I'm like, holy
oh my
shit.
gosh, yeah. I thought it was a little overkill.
It was
at first,
a little
man.
overboard.
I really liked where they went with it without going into spoilers as of right now. But it kind of, I liked how it developed the killer in a way. There wasn't, it kind of showed multiple killers later in the movie. But I mean, if it was a very small section of the movie, they did that. But it kind of, I liked how there was one killer throughout the movie, and he doesn't really like establish the identity until like late in the movie either.
Yeah, I liked it. I like that, like you said, they come later in the movie. I like the tease of the monsters. I feel like this is something that could keep going, man. I mean, just
develop like a new story every year.
You keep teasing these monsters, man. It doesn't even have to connect all the time. Just like have a fun horror movie. So far, they've both been fun horror movies.
Yeah, and I think that's what the point of it is. I don't think they're very scary in a sense.
No,
but I think they have a good story to them in a way, and that's a lot of things you don't find in like a slasher, even like the 80s or nowadays. You don't really find too much substance in horror movies unless you really go looking for it.
I mean, and I don't, again, like you said, I don't think this was intended to scare me. Like nobody watches Friday the 13th and they're like, oh, that's scary. You know? Like it's
a slasher.
It's a slasher film, and that's all these are too. They're just slasher films.
Yeah,
you know, they're fun. Before we get into spoilers, I do also want to say the soundtrack, fantastic in this movie.
Yeah,
fantastic. Like. And I know it was just playing 70s music and stuff for that, but I was like, really good choices in some of these songs and in the placement.
I liked it, but like I feel like they were in the first one. I did the same thing with like 90s music, where it's like okay, where they kind of put it out throughout. They spaced it pretty well throughout the movie. This one, I feel like they went a little overboard with all the music. I feel like it was like every 10 minutes they're just like, oh, here's another old track.
Here's another 70s song.
And I was like, okay, I get it. You're in the 70s. I get it. I know where we're at.
No, I actually like the soundtrack. Now, this is kind of rolling into the spoiler section, but like when she plays it in the end, I don't know if that was a decision I would have made. I would have been like, I kind of want to hear him.
Yeah.
Coming. Like, I get the choice to be like, I don't want him to hear me. But nah, fuck
the same thing. I want to be aware of my surroundings.
Yeah, I want to know.
I totally agree. Overall, before we head into the spoilers, I thought it was decent. I thought it was better than the first one. I would definitely recommend this one. As of right now, spoiler alert. This is spoiler territory. We're going
this is your
straight
warning.
into it. 30 minutes into the movie, you have like the nice old nurse that you see once that like befriends Ziggy. She like comes at her sister's boyfriend with a knife, saying that like I'm gonna kill you because like I gotta stop this because you're gonna die tonight anyway, pretty much. And he's like, oh,
she was right. Should have just let her do it.
Should have just let her do it, just like in the first movie where with the one girl, they should have just threw her out there and died. Would have stopped this whole thing. The movie kind of kicks off with that, where they're like, all right, we're investigating. Like, what did this mean? Where did this come from? And that kind of leads down to like what you're saying with the caves. And everything down below, they're trying to find like the mark of the witch.
Yeah, which was
into the earth.
When they were going down in the witch's temple, was very Evil Dead basement feels to me. Like right when I was like, this is real Evil Dead. Like I like that.
Yeah, with that, it had like the stairs with the stones all around it. It did look kind of like the basement. The underground is shaped just like the actual emblem. They're just kind of trying to. It's like a maze in a way that they have.
That one was a little confusing.
I don't know.
that one's a little of a stretch,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't think people would know this cave is hollow?
And like they run into like a big old, like they never really explain what it is or what happens with it,
Heart?
but it's like a huge heart in the middle.
Uh,
And like her friend, her one, like I guess you can call her friend, she's kind of a bitch the whole movie, bosses her around.
bitch, the whole movie.
Touches it and kind of sees like all the past killers and sees like the memories of everything. I'm guessing having to do with the witch, but they don't really, they touch on like the hand story where they got to connect the hand with her body to kind of end the
Yeah.
curse, but they don't ever explain what's with this big bleeding like heart in the middle of this like temple. Like what does that have to do with anything?
I don't understand that either. And bringing up the hand, I know this is jumping to the end a little bit, but when they dig it up in the mall, I'm like, really?
Oh
They
my
just built
gosh,
this
yeah.
whole
I
mall around
looked
the
at a net
street.
at that point. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Come on
Come on.
now. It's
Like,
even like up onto like a pedestal that they built man-made where the tree is, and it was like,
yeah.
that's not even the same dirt.
Yeah, like what are you talking
How
about?
is it
Somebody's been
still
taking
there?
care of that for fucking
They would have
300 years at this point.
they would have just dug up the tree and put it in there. They wouldn't have
Yeah,
just built the mall around the tree.
yeah, that was stupid.
I thought, yeah, I was like, come on. Find out after the nurse kind of the near death experience, the boyfriend starting pretty much acts weird the whole rest of the movie up until you get the big twist that he is the killer.
Which they didn't waste too much time with that.
Yeah,
I felt like
yeah.
by the time the nurse attacked him, it became the killer was what 20 minutes maybe, if
Yeah, it
even.
wasn't much.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were
which I
kind of
love.
going through like the activities for a minute where he was just like kind of zoning out. He wasn't all there. But that's whenever they go down to the caves for their first time with like her friend and like her stoner boyfriend. And
Yeah,
that's where you get like pretty much the major like kill of the movie, man, where he just like
yeah,
takes that axe to the dude's head like 5 different times. It was wild.
yeah. Not my favorite kill. I'll tell you my favorite kill, but we'll get to it. I'll let you know when it's mine.
But yeah, from there sets up the slasher point of the movie where it's just this dude now running around this camp just
Yeah,
slaughtering kids. And I mean they don't show it, but I was very surprised on how many like kids they kill in this movie.
I was too, and I was telling Marissa though, like 70 movies, they would kill kids on camera. They
Yeah.
didn't care,
Yeah.
Like it was a little bit of cop
Yeah,
out,
you
but I
can't
was
really get away with
surprised.
killing like little kids nowadays. Whereas
I
like
was surprised.
yeah, you had like the nerd kid that was like
He was the
guarding
most surprising because they even showed like the blood and like the top of his body, and I was
and
like,
his
ooh,
glasses
like
broke and stuff, but like
yeah,
he comes in and you just all you hear is just him hacking at him and it was like
yeah,
geez, Jesus. Even like the later on in the movie with like it's like the art area with like 4 kids that he comes into and he just murders all of them. And yeah, and what you're saying, the guy comes in, sees like the body parts and everything everywhere.
yeah.
It was like
I
pretty shocking.
They killed a lot of kids. I liked also that they were following the two stories. I was actually interested in both stories. The two sisters they were
Hmm.
following back and forth. I was
Yeah,
interested in that. And this is the only thing I'm not going to give away in the spoiler section. The twist and all that was I was like, all right. I mean, I kind of saw it coming, but I was like,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
It was okay. It
And
was
they
enough.
also like other than like the person that's telling the story to the main characters from the first movie, you do get another throwback character where it's Ziggy, the main character, has like kind of a romance with one of the counselors who ends up becoming like the sheriff in the first
Yeah.
movie. So you kind of get a little bit of his backstory as well.
Which I liked.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the first one, he's like doing things. You're like, all right, does he care? Doesn't he care? But this one shows me, all right, he cares.
yeah,
So I like that.
yeah. And I mean, one of the kids as well. He doesn't have a big part in the movie. The one kid's from Halloween 2018. I was like, oh,
Is
it's
he?
that kid. I haven't seen him since that movie. I haven't seen him in anything other than Halloween.
Is he?
He's like,
He gets his head chopped off in the bathroom.
that was a weird part as well. Like coming to think of it, was at the point they come in the cave, they find an opening, and it's to like the outhouse where like
Yeah.
the people that built the camp just like
Didn't see this cave.
Didn't
We're
see this
like, yeah, there's a
big-ass
lot of
cave.
shit down there. And he's like, no, just put an outhouse on it. It's a
just
hole,
put it
man.
out. Yeah, we don't have to worry about where it all goes after that point.
He's like,
It
hey
just
man, I
goes
think I
out
see a hand down there because that's when she finds the hand. Like
Yeah.
they've been shitting on Sarah Fier's hand for like centuries, for however long this camp's been around. They've been shitting on
Oh
Sarah
my
Fier.
gosh.
See, that's how she picked the people on the wall. It was whoever sat in that one outhouse that went straight down. Like whoever shit in there.
And that's
They
a
were
good
horrible.
segue into how they've developed the killers for for the series for the witch finds the killers. They write their name down on like a big ass stone tablet, and whoever they write the name on, that pretty much who becomes like possessed and starts like doing the killings. And I mean, as you see in like the first movie, there's been killings after killings like years and years and years. Like this is just hundreds. A continuing thing. Kind of develops from there. You have typical slasher movie. They're trying to figure out all the mystery and everything. And I mean, it just comes down to, oh, you got to find like Sarah Fear's hand and get it back to her actual body. And they happen to know where the body is. It's like under that tree.
So I think this is a typical slasher movie where like it hits the beat path that you think it would. The first one's what kind of makes this unique, that most slasher films kind of like wrap itself up in one segment, you know, and then kind of add later. This one feels like it should be a 3-parter, you know, it's not giving too much away. It's kind of given just enough each time. Yeah. And I like that.
And they didn't really develop, like the only thing I would say as well is they didn't really develop how that nurse like kind of started investigating everything. They just kind of like, oh, she tried to kill this dude. They found the map with like all the different old names for the different places in the camp, and like
her daughter, right? Her daughter.
Oh yeah,
like,
her daughter.
Somebody who does does the killings.
Yeah, her daughter was a killer, and then they're like, oh, they just blamed it on it runs in the family, pretty much. And just to wrap it up, they try to put the hand back. I don't know if we should give away the main.
I don't want to give away the main end.
But I mean, you said the one part we'll talk about quick.
And again, I don't want to give away my favorite kill is the last kill with the sister where he's just like pounding on the chest.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah. I forgot
that was my favorite. I mean, the sister's in the scene. I was like, holy shit. It just kept going.
It's some shit you don't see in movies too much. Usually they cut away, but it just sits there and shows him just hacking at her with this axe. I was expecting them to cut away, but yeah, you're right.
Too.
That was
and then it cuts back, and I'm just like, holy shit, how long are they going to show this?
Speaking of like him with the axe, there was a part, it was like straight out of The Shining, where they're behind the door, and it just, the camera kind of moves with him as he brings the axe back and hits the door. Very Shining-esque.
I feel like if we watched it again, we could probably see a lot of like horror movie references. I feel like it's doing a pretty good job with that. The only other beat before I know we're wrapping this up, the only other beat I want to get into is I do want to see in the last of that like baby doll face killer guy, like he had like the white mask on. I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, they didn't show him in the first part.
I liked him.
He looked like a kind of like a Michael Myers. He looked like he had like a work suit on with that white mask.
He looked cool.
Yeah,
I didn't like how the guy gets his mask either. I was like, yeah, that's kind of lame. But like, whatever, it's fine.
It was kind of lame.
Whatever.
It was
nitpick. That's a nitpick.
I'm interested to see like where they go with the next one and like where the murder or who the murderer is going to be in the next one as well.
I mean, they've introduced so many characters. I mean, they could make 7 movies of just the characters they've introduced. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, after part 3, I'm fully expecting them to like continue with a Fear Street like saga going forward on Netflix. I feel like that's
even if it's a show, they should do a show maybe.
Yeah, even if it's a show. Just like little mini series. If they don't do a little mini series, just do like a little show for like kind of like how American Horror Story does it. Just you can probably be a little bit more concise because like American Horror Story, they have to have like all these episodes. Netflix, you can concise it down to like a certain amount and just tell the full story. You don't have to have a lot of filler or anything.
We just want to see cool kills at that point. Like, get your story out of the way with these 3 movies, and then we'll see cool kills and cool killers from here on out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to this next week here, going back to 1666, because I guess the main character is going to be involved with that. So, who knows? I'm sure it'll give us a lot to talk about.
It looked like all the characters were going back.
Yeah. It kind of looked how, like, what I mentioned with American Horror Story, how they're using, like, all the same characters.
Yeah, like all the actors, like their descendants.
Yeah, like they're descendants of the ones in the future. Yeah, maybe that's how it is. Who knows? You might have figured out the twist before it's even released.
Yeah, crack the code.
And that's why you're here. But yeah, man. Out of 10, what would you give this movie, man?
I actually really liked it, man. I would watch this again, and I'm excited to watch this again. I'm gonna wait till my kids get a little older, but I want to watch it with them. I'd probably give it like a 7.7, man. 7.7? I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll probably give it around a 7.5.
Yeah.
That's probably where I fall. I kind of said it about the first one. This one, I agree with you. They're probably going to need be a little bit older. But I feel like Fear Street's kind of a good, like, entrance to horror
Yeah,
for some kid, not kids, but like teenagers. If
this
you
one
want
had
to
a little too
introduce
much
them to
sex and
horror,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I was pretty surprised on how much sex there was in
yeah,
both of these
yeah.
movies. Yeah.
I liked it.
Good. I liked it too, man. I'll give it 7.5. Next week, we're definitely going to cover Fear Street Part 3, 1666. I'm sure that'll be interesting.
I'll be
Until
here.
then, Alex
Maybe
will
we'll
be
get Evan.
here. We're going to wrap it all up. Maybe Evan, because I think he's watched them now. So we'll
We
have
can
one.
do like part 1 just you, part 2 2 people, part 3 3 people. It'll work.
We planned it that way. Don't give it away. But yeah, we'll have one big old shebang bang wrap up video for the whole series next week, and we'll have Evan here hopefully. Until then, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to watch all of our other content on the channel. Make sure to go follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see everybody next week.